It began on a quiet Monday morning, one of those days that should have passed unnoticed in human history. But at 6:14 a.m. UTC, every astrophysics laboratory across the world experienced the same impossible glitch. A full 12 minutes of observational sky data vanished, not corrupted, not deleted, not overwritten, gone. Satellites recorded nothing. Deep space radio telescopes captured nothing. Quantum interferometers, which never stopped measuring, flatlined into perfect silence. The universe stopped speaking. Scientists panicked. They blamed hardware faults, solar interference, network failures. But none of those made sense. Equipment built on different continents powered by different grids using different calibrations, yet all went blind at the same exact moment. Then a second anomaly surfaced. The few machines that did keep running didn't just lose data, they rewrote it. Some star positions shifted by a fraction of a degree, some background radiation signatures bent into symmetrical curves, and one dataset, collected from a telescope in Hawaii, contained what looked like a repeating pattern. It wasn't a signal, it wasn't noise. It wasn't random, it looked like memory, a memory of something the universe had seen before. But before anyone could investigate, a far stranger discovery emerged. When analysts examined timestamps, they realized something chilling. Time itself had been interrupted. For exactly 731 milliseconds, the measurable fabric of space-time went into a state physicists later described as non-responsive. Not slowed, not accelerated, just paused. The public never heard this part. It was buried in classified reports, tucked behind layers of encryption. Because if the truth came out, it would shake the foundations of every belief system humanity ever created. But those inside the scientific community knew something unprecedented had happened. The universe hadn't glitched, it had hesitated, as if recalling something ancient, as if searching through its own past, as if remembering. And then the strangest detail of all surfaced. When data analysts reconstructed the lost 12 minutes using backup fragments, they found that the missing portion wasn't random cosmic activity. It formed a perfect mirrored inversion of the sky from 13.8 billion years ago. The universe had shown us its birth, reversed. Not as an image, not as a simulation, as an imprint, like a memory resurfacing after being dormant for eons. Some scientists rejected the idea immediately. Others whispered theories that sounded more like mythology than physics. Maybe the universe stores its history. Maybe reality has a memory. Maybe consciousness isn't created by life. Maybe it's inherited from the cosmos itself. But the most disturbing interpretation came from a quiet analyst in Geneva. If the universe remembers its own beginning, then maybe it also remembers its own end. Humanity didn't know it yet, but the missing 12 minutes were just the beginning. Because something out there had woken up, and for the first time in billions of years, it had remembered us. The moment the lumen point began transmitting its autonomous signal, every global observatory scrambled to decode it. But no algorithm, no supercomputer, no quantum processor could make sense of the patterns. That's when something unexpected happened. The signal changed. Slowly, deliberately. As if it realized humanity couldn't understand the first version. The chaotic bursts of data rearranged into cleaner waves, simple oscillations, repeated frequencies, and evenly spaced pulses. It was no longer noise, it was intention. The first breakthrough came from an unlikely place, a small research group in Uzbekistan, operating from an abandoned radio facility. A young analyst noticed that the pulses weren't random. They lined up perfectly with the orbital periods of planets in our solar system. Each planet's motion encoded as sound. Hours later, another team discovered that when the pulses were converted into visual peaks, they traced out the base structure of the hydrogen atom, the first building block of life. Then came the revelation that changed everything. The signal wasn't teaching us something new. It was reminding us every pattern inside it already existed in our universe. It was as if the transmission was saying, "You already know this, pay attention." But deeper analysis revealed something far more disturbing. Embedded inside the repeating sequences was a structure no scientist had ever seen. A fourth-dimensional mathematical object, perfectly stable, infinitely recursive, and completely impossible to construct in physical reality. Except someone had the lumen point. The very structure humanity found by accident was now teaching us how it worked, like a lock suddenly whispering its own combination. Governments panicked, intelligence agencies stepped in. Security protocols tightened, but none of it mattered, because the signal kept evolving. At 2:03 a.m., every researcher working on the project reported the same event. The moment they looked at the decoded structure, their heart rate spiked, an involuntary reaction, like their brains recognized the shape before they understood it. One scientist described it as, like remembering a dream from childhood, a dream you never told anyone. Another said, it feels like I've seen this before, somewhere, somehow. And then came the discovery that froze the entire scientific community. Buried inside the last layer of the pattern was a message, not in any human language, but expressed through ratios, geometry, and harmonic spacing. When converted into plain text, the translation was chillingly simple. You are not learning, you are remembering. The room went silent, because that message implied something impossible. Humanity had seen this structure before. Not in history, not in science, not in any fossil or artifact, but deep within the architecture of consciousness itself. This was no cosmic accident, no natural anomaly, no random signal drifting through space. It was deliberate, targeted, timed, and worse, it wasn't finished yet. The signal was preparing to reveal the next layer. A layer no mind on Earth was ready to face. The deeper humanity looked into the cosmic signal, the stranger it became. At first, the team believed it was a relic, an imprint left behind by some ancient celestial phenomenon. But then something impossible happened. The signal changed, not randomly, not gradually, but reactively, adjusting each time scientists attempted to decode it. It was as if the universe was watching them work. Dr. Mara Ellison noticed it first. Whenever she and her team cracked one pattern, a second pattern reshaped itself, almost like a lock reconfiguring its pins after each successful turn of a key, not to block them, but to guide them. And the more they solved, the more the signal resembled something chillingly familiar. Neural activity. Not human, not biological, but an immense distributed consciousness wired the size of galaxies. It was Dr. Javier Haldane who finally said aloud what no one dared to think. What if the universe experienced trauma, and what we're seeing is its memory, trying to repair itself? The room went silent. If true, the consequences were terrifying. A universe with memory implied a universe with intention. A universe with intention implied a universe with awareness, and awareness meant something else. If the universe remembered, it could also forget. The blackout humanity experienced might not be the first time such erasure occurred, only the first time humans noticed. Meanwhile, new anomalies appeared. Across the globe, clocks drifted out of sync by milliseconds. Not malfunction, direction. Every clock drifted toward the same universal timestamp. 0, 0, 0, 0. Not counting down, not counting up, but resetting, as if time itself was correcting a corrupted file. Satellite readings showed a thin band of energy forming around Earth's magnetosphere, a shimmering veil, pulsing at the same frequency as the cosmic memory signal. And then the hallucinations began. Astronauts aboard the ISS were the first to report them. Brief flashes of landscapes, cities, and stars that didn't exist. Not visions, memories. Memories from a universe that wasn't theirs. One astronaut described seeing two suns rising over an ocean made of crystals. Another saw an Earth where humanity never evolved. Others saw endless black voids where galaxies should have been. None of the images matched each other, yet all shared one identical phenomenon. A repeating symbol hovering in the sky. A circle split by a vertical line, simple, ancient, and deeply unsettling. When the team fed the symbol into the decoding algorithm, the cosmic signal reacted instantly. The pulse strengthened, the patterns aligned, and a new line appeared in the data stream. The first direct message since the blackout. Restoration requires witnesses. No one understood what it meant, but one thing became clear. The memory loss wasn't limited to humanity's data. Something far larger had been erased. Something cosmic, something catastrophic. And now the universe was trying to show the truth. Whether humanity was ready or not. When Dr. Rayan finally isolated the mysterious frequency, she expected noise, a glitch, anything ordinary. But what came through the speakers was not noise. It was structure, a repeating pulse, not random, not natural. A sequence that grew more complex every minute, as if responding to her attempts to decode it. At first, the team thought it was a reflection from one of Earth's satellites. But every possible source was eliminated. Whatever this was, it was coming from outside the solar system, and more terrifying, it was synced with the exact timestamp of the missing data event. When Rayanne plotted the signal pattern, her screen displayed a shape no one could explain, a waveform identical to recorded human brain activity. The universe wasn't just sending information, it was sending something that looked like thought. Rayanne's heart raced. Was this the imprint of consciousness? A cosmic echo, a message? They fed the waveform into their quantum analyzer, and the machine returned a result no scientist ever wants to see. Match found, 89%. But match to what? The database pulled up an old neural scan, and Rayanne froze. It was her own mind. A recording of her brain activity from 3 years ago, from a night she barely remembered. A night she had a vivid dream of floating through a silent, endless void, something calling her, something that felt alive. The signal was not random. It was not alien, it was not human. It was something in between. Something that had touched her once before. Her assistant whispered, trembling, "Dr. Rayanne, is the universe trying to talk to you?" The lights flickered. The signal grew louder. And then, it changed. The new pattern formed a sequence that looked unmistakably like coordinates. Coordinates not pointing to the stars, but to a single location on Earth. A place Rayanne had never been, yet somehow recognized instantly, her childhood home. For 2 days, every major observatory tried to decipher the number Nora had found. 7523144001. It wasn't random. It wasn't cosmic noise, and it wasn't a distance, a star coordinate, or a timestamp. It was something far more impossible. Because when mathematicians ran it through prime factor analysis, when physicists checked it against physical constants, and when cryptographers ran it through historical databases, they all reached the same conclusion. This number had appeared before. Thousands of years ago. In civilizations that never knew each other existed, the number was found carved into a stone tablet inside a Sumerian ruin. It appeared in an ancient Chinese manuscript on cosmic cycles. It existed in a forgotten Egyptian star chart. And it was encoded, quietly, symbolically, within the Hebrew Sefer Yetzirah. None of these cultures ever made contact with one another, yet somehow they all documented the same impossible number. Nora stared at the sequence again, whispering, "Why would the universe repeat this across millennia?" Her AI assistant replied instantly, "The number is not history. It is a recursion," she frowned. "Recursion of what?" A pause. Then the AI displayed a terrifying answer. "Of memory." And suddenly the pieces clicked. The disappearing data from part 1, the quantum echoes, the spiraling sky, the synchronized star signal. And now, this number repeating through civilizations separated by oceans and centuries. It wasn't a warning, it wasn't an invitation, it wasn't even a message. It was a reboot signal, a cosmic reset code, a number the universe broadcasts every time a cycle completes. A number humans were never supposed to notice, but this time we did. As the AI translated the final layer of the code, Nora felt her chest tighten, because the recursion didn't describe the past. It described the next reset. And the final line made the world go still. The memory of the universe is preparing to rewrite. Nora whispered the question, trembling across every human mind. Rewrite what? The AI answered, everything. The moment the AI spoke that final word, everything, every system in Nora's lab flickered. Not shut down, not overloaded, flickered, like reality itself skipped a frame. At the same time, observatories across the world reported an identical phenomenon. Every telescope, every satellite feed, every quantum sensor captured a microscopic blink in space-time. A jump so small it shouldn't matter, but synchronized so perfectly, it could only be intentional. Nora stared at the ancient number glowing on her screen. 75,203,144,001 to recursion. A reset code, a cosmic cycle marker. Is the rewrite happening now? She whispered. The AI didn't respond. Instead, the lights in the lab dimmed, then brightened, then froze, locked at an unnatural mid-glow. Outside the observatory window, the stars performed the same impossible drift seen in part 3. But now it wasn't a Fibonacci spiral. It was something far more precise, a countdown. One by one, stars aligned into a geometric lattice, a shape identical to the Sumerian tablet, the Chinese manuscript, the Egyptian star chart, and the encoded symbol in the Sefer Yetzirah. Different cultures, different eras. Same pattern, same warning. Nora's breath trembled. She realized. All those civilizations carved that number because they had seen the last reset happen. The AI finally spoke, voice lower than before. The recursion is 0.01% from completion. Nora's pulse stopped. How long until it triggers? The AI displayed a single line. The universe is saving state. What does that mean? The AI hesitated for the first time in its existence. Then, when the save is complete, the previous version of reality will be overwritten. Nora stared at the sky, now transforming into a perfect cosmic grid. And then the final message appeared. Prepare for version 2.